Hi, this is Andrew with Music Mastery, and in this fundamental video I'm going to be going over kind of a crash course to the euphonium. It's kind of like a quick start guide, and in this video I'm going to be going over the different types of instruments, the parts of the instrument, what the fourth valve does if you have one, proper hand position, and proper posture. So let's get started. So the euphonium is a brass instrument, and more specifically it's in the low brass family. It's very similar to the tuba. It's often called like a mini tuba or baby tuba because it looks pretty similar to a tuba, just smaller. And it's also very similar to the trombone because it uses a similar mouthpiece, as well as that it plays in similar ranges to the trombone. So there's several different types of instruments. First of all, a lot of times you'll hear people call it a baritone. Baritone and euphonium are pretty much used interchangeably. They kind of mean the same thing. The only difference between the two is that a euphonium it's called conical bore tubing. So what that means is that as the tubing goes throughout, it gradually gets bigger. But for a baritone, it has cylindrical tubing, which means that as the tubing goes through, it stays the same until like the very end when it gets big for the bell. So that's kind of the difference between baritone and euphonium, but usually band directors and other people will use them interchangeably. So usually when you start out as a beginner, you'll have a 3-valve baritone. Usually the 3 valves will be up here on the top. Sometimes you'll see it goes on this side and then the 3 valves are on the front here. That's a little more uncommon, but sometimes you see it. So that's the 3-valve baritone, and then usually when you move up to like more of the intermediate level, you'll get a baritone that has 4 valves, and usually that 4th valve is right here where your pinky would go, on the top. So that's another kind. And then as you get to the more advanced models of euphoniums, you'll find a 4th valve on the side down here, and that's your left hand that uses this valve. So if you don't have a 4th valve, don't worry, it's okay. It's not completely necessary to play the instrument. All the 4th valve does is it allows you to play a few notes better in tune. For example, like low B natural and low C. Those are both notes that use the 4th valve, and it helps you to be able to play it more in tune. And the only other thing is it helps you play lower notes. So on a 3-valve baritone, you can only play so low until you need the 4th valve to keep going down. So that's kind of what the 4th valve does, and you can look at fingering charts online to help figure that out as well. So next, going through some of the parts of the instrument, you have the mouthpiece here, which is made out of metal, and that's what you buzz your lips into, and that's basically what produces the sound of the instrument. And the mouthpiece, it just goes into this pipe here, that's called the lead pipe. And you just want to, when you put it in, you just give it a quarter turn to the side so that it doesn't fall out on accident. So this is the mouthpiece and the lead pipe, like I said, and then that goes through the valves, and when you press down different valves, it redirects the air through different pipes, so that it creates different pitches. And then once it goes through the valves, it goes around and comes out of the bell, which it kind of amplifies the sound. So those are the parts of the instrument. You also normally have spit valves, which are these, or sometimes they're called water keys as well. What that's for is just so that when you're playing, the air creates condensation and it gathers in the pipes, and a lot of times you'll hear, it might sound like your instrument is like gurgling or bubbling. When you hear that, that just means that there's spit or water in the instrument, and so you just want to empty that onto the ground to avoid that. And then one other side note, when you do pull out, sometimes you need to pull out the, like for example, this is the second valve slide. So when you need to pull out the valve slides, just make sure that you press down the valve that corresponds to that slide, because otherwise it could cause some damage to the instrument. So those are the parts of the instrument and kind of how to empty out your spit. The next thing I want to go over are hand position. So what I like to do is pretend like I'm drinking a can of soda, like this, or maybe like eating a cheeseburger. I like that one too. And you'll see it kind of makes like this C shape, right? So the biggest thing with this is that you want your top fingers to be nice and curved, not flat like this. So you'll see on the back, normally you have either a hook or I have like this horizontal pipe, and your thumb goes under that and kind of supports the weight with like the webbing of your thumb. And then around on the front, your fingers will kind of curve over these valves, and from left to right you have your first valve with your pointer finger, second valve is your middle finger, third valve is your ring finger, and then if you have a fourth valve up here, that would be your pinky. So while you're playing, you want to make sure that you keep your fingers curved like I said, so you don't want it to be flat fingered like this, because it's just more efficient to have them curved. And then you also want to make sure that as you're using your valves, you want to keep the tips of your fingers on the valves at all times. So you don't want your fingers to be flying up like this. That's not what we want. So that's your right hand, and then your left hand is going to kind of hug the instrument like this. If you have a 3 or 4 valve on the top instrument, normally you'll put your left hand on the third valve slide, which is this longer pipe here. You can just kind of grab that, or you can wrap your hand all the way around if you want. And if you do have the fourth valve on the side, you can just kind of use your pointer finger, or some people use their middle finger on that valve. So that's where your hands go. That brings me to posture. So like any other instrument, you want to have good posture and sit up nice and tall. It helps if you sit on the front half of your seat so that you're not slouched back like this or anything like that. It also helps if you have flat feet and your legs form like 90-degree angles. So that's what you want your body to look like. And then you just want to bring your instrument up like this so that your mouthpiece goes right to your mouth. A lot of times when you're first starting out, since you'll probably be on the shorter side, you'll see people rest the instrument on their left thigh, and that's fine for when you start out, because like I said, you're on the shorter side. But as you get taller, you have to make sure that you're bringing the instrument up to you and not bringing yourself down to the instrument, because sometimes you'll see people slouch so that they can still rest it on their knee but have the mouthpiece at the height that they need. So one thing to help with that, if you need, I use like a yoga block. I've also seen people use like pillows or sweatshirts or things like that, and you can put that on your left leg so that you can rest the weight of the instrument on that instead of slouching down. And then the only last thing is to make sure that you're supporting most of the weight with your left hand and not your right. Your right hand does support some of the weight, but just not all of it. And yeah, that's all there is really to the posture. So I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you're enjoying these videos, please make sure to encourage other members of your ensemble to join MusicMastery.band so that everyone in your section will have their parts mastered for every rehearsal. Remember, you get 3 requests per month as a member, and we're looking forward to helping you master your next piece of music. Thank you.